I'm not always the loudest person in the room. I'm not always the most outspoken person in the room. But what I do is I like to be a sponge and I like to be observant and just really take in everything that people are saying and learn and lead by examples.
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
My next guest is the Director of Corporate Partnership Activation for New Mexico United. Caity Sobel is only 3 years out of college. 3 years. She started as a coordinator and worked her way to becoming a director. She got promoted after, you know what? I'm not going to give it away. I want you guys to listen to our conversation. She's going to spill it all. She's going to talk about the ups and downs of starting a job fresh out of college. She's going to talk about some of the mindset challenges she had and the strategies and the techniques that she used to push through. Right? That's the key here. She pushed through all of those and has had a very successful career, and Caity is only getting started. All right, friends, let's do this. Caity, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I am so excited you're here.
Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. I'm so glad that you messaged me, right, on LinkedIn. That's how we found each other. Yes. I love that. And you're a fan of the show. And I was like, ooh, you need to be on the show. I'm grateful that you're a fan of the show, but I was really excited to have you on as a guest. Okay. Take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
I think I've probably fallen in love with sports a couple of times in my life for different reasons. I think the earliest memory that I have is I started playing softball when I learned how to walk. I pretty much, as soon as I learned how to walk, I had a bat in my hand. And my dad actually sponsored my t-ball team. And so his business was on the front of my shirt. I think back to that now, and I think that's one of the coolest moments of my whole life. But also I've grown up, like I said, I'm a softball player. My brother played everything from baseball. He was a diver and then found his official love of ice hockey. So he's 30 now and still does that. But we also grew up in a college basketball household. My dad is a fanatic of U of L basketball. When those games are on, you can't pull him away from the TV. So I just always grew up around sports. We would go to the U of L basketball games. My dad would take me to U of L softball games. And I just absolutely loved the environment. He did have friends that worked for the Louisville Bats, who's the minor league baseball team in town. And so as a young kid, I was able to take some really fun opportunities to go on the field during innings and do the run around the bases with Buddy Bat, the mascot. Some of the biggest memories I'll ever cherish. And then there was even a moment that I was in the crowd and they were throwing these foam baseballs out into the crowd. And I went and I grabbed one and I dropped it, and someone actually came over and stole it right out of my hands and just was cheering. Everyone started booing him, but he didn't care. He loved it. And then Buddy Bat actually came down into the stands and gave me a ball signed by him. And I think it was just those moments that really took me back and had me think about what it is that sports can really do for someone. And those memories are something I cherish forever. And then when I was playing softball, when I was younger, for the little league team that I played for, right before the season started for softball or baseball, we would do a parade. And it was a big spectacle down a really busy road, and business owners and people would just drive on the side of the road and stop and cheer on these little kids that were just on summer break and we're going to play baseball and softball for a couple of months. And so we always had an old school fire truck that we were able to deck out and do all of these fun things with. And then it was a full blown parade. All the teams just got to sit on these vehicles and wave to the crowd. And it was just so fun. And I think that's really the power of sport, is that it doesn't always have to be serious, but it's just so fun and memory makers for those kids.
I love that. And when did you decide? I mean, you had sports had a huge impact on your life growing up. That's totally apparent. So when did you decide, all right, I want to keep this going? I'm graduating high school, going into college. What did you play sports in college?
I did not play sports in college. I don't know if I was good enough to play softball in college, unfortunately. I would have absolutely loved to, but I also injured my shoulder and kind of had to find the next career path, I guess you could say. My college experience was something that I would recommend to everybody to try something new. So I am from Louisville, Kentucky originally, and I went to the University of South Carolina. I majored in sport and entertainment management. I didn't know that was an option in college, as I'm sure many people aren't aware of that. And I actually found out about the program through one of my softball coaches. We had ran into him somewhere, and he told me about this program called the Academic Common Market. And it's basically a group of schools in the Southeast that have come together and said, if we offer a major that's not available at your state school, then you get in-state tuition. And so I was able to get in-state tuition to go to South Carolina. I majored in sport and entertainment management. But before that, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Wait a second. Is this like a common practice? Like, obviously I've been out of college for a while, but is this, and I don't have children, so I'm not even thinking about it, but is this a common thing where you can get, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I didn't know it was anything either until I ran into my coach, because I think he knew somebody that was going through the same program. It wasn't just for sport management. It was for a variety of different programs that were offered. So when I was looking at these schools, I thought, okay, let me look at the list. And at the time I was a huge movie buff, and I thought maybe I wanted to go into film studies. I didn't really know what I wanted to do going into college. And my dad and I took a road trip down to South Carolina, and we were going to go talk to the film studies department. And we're in the hotel room that morning, and he tells me, hey, what about sport and entertainment management? And I said, I don't really know about that. I think I was a little bitter that I had to stop playing softball due to an injury. And I just don't know if I really wanted to get into that. I didn't really know anything about it. And he just said, well, humor me. We're here. Take a chance. So he called the school, and we were able to get an appointment with one of the professors before we did the actual tour of the school. And I couldn't tell you what those conversations were during that meeting with those professors, but all I know is as soon as I walked out of that room, I told my dad, I have to come here and I have to major in sport and entertainment management. And it just, something clicked right in line with everything that I had ever wanted before I realized that it was a dream of mine.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. Nice work, Dad. Really, on his part.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. Nice work, Dad. Before we go any further, I want you to tell everybody what you do and who you do it for.
Yeah, so I am currently the Director of Corporate Partnership Activation at New Mexico United. That is a team in the USL Championship. So it's Division II soccer in America, and we are based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But what's really unique about us is that we're actually a team for the entire state. You don't really see a lot of teams nowadays that really represent the entire state that they're in, really just that they hone in on the city that they're located in. But we truly do try to branch out to everywhere across the state. We have fans from all over that will drive multiple hours to come to our games. And it's a lot of fun. It's definitely a unique experience. This is my first job out of college. So I've been here for 2.5 years. I started off as the partnerships coordinator and then was able to move up to a management role. And then now I have a director role, which is really exciting. But basically what I do on the activation side is I work with our sales team to meet with local businesses or national businesses that have an interest in promoting themselves through New Mexico United and the vehicles that we have to offer. And then we find the best way to bring their goals and their values and their dreams to reality. And then it's really up to me to make sure that we're bringing value wherever we can and then some. So things like field signage, broadcast assets on ESPN Plus, things in the community, and just different types of in-person and digital activations.
Now, you can't gloss over that you started, this is your first job out of college, and you started as a coordinator and now you're a director, and you've been there, what, 2.5 years?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in a little bit. You get your first job out of school. Okay, that's normal. And then in 9 months, you move up from a coordinator to a manager. And then 9 months later, you become a director. So what was that like? Were you looking for the promotion? Did it kind of come to you because of your hard work? Obviously, well-deserved. But like, talk us through how that came to be and how you advocated for yourself.
I think it was just such a whirlwind experience that we had back then. When I first started, it was about a week before we had announced New Mexico United as our name, and we announced our shield and everything else. We were just USL New Mexico when I was hired. We were hoping we were going to get 6,000 fans a game. We said, if we got that, we are golden. Our home opener had just under 13,000 fans. And then we continued to lead the league in attendance throughout the entire 2019 season. That was our first season as a club. So I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we were a brand new organization. Something that's interesting is at the time, I was the only individual in the front office that had any prior sports experience or education. So everyone in the front office was people that had never worked in sports before. And I think that that was something that was truly unique, that we were all going through this experience together. I was able to bring some of the experience and the knowledge that I had gained over the years, whether it was in school or in internships, and then really bring it to the table. So I think that I just became a leader in that sense of knowing how certain things are supposed to go, what's to be expected of someone when they work in sports. And really set the tone for what the season was going to look like on the back end in the front office.
Tell us some more. So are you at all you're going through this process? Now, part of this podcast is to talk about how these women who are like yourself, who are powerful, influential, and are killing the game, right? And crushing it. And so the other part of it too is like hearing some of the stories that, normalizing some of the things that we don't always talk about. So tell us, like, at some point, were you nervous? Here you are, like right out of school, 18 months later, a director. Is there any part of you that like dealt with self-doubt?
Oh, I have imposter syndrome like nobody's business. I feel that every single day. One of the reasons why I became a director, it happened just before COVID, honestly. So it was still very, very new right before we had our season shut down. My boss at the time who had hired me left to go take a position with another organization. And at the time, I was the only person in the department. The only individual in corporate partnerships responsible for activating 60 plus partners at the time. We were just about to start our season, and we were looking for people to come on board with us. But for a while there, I was the only one managing the sales, the activation, the customer service, all of the above.
You have imposter syndrome, but you also grew your portfolio of partners from 4 to over 80.
Yes.
Right? And that's local and national brands.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to read that, but then also hear you say you suffer from imposter syndrome, right? Like, I'm sure this is what happens to a lot of people. It's like, wait, why? Like, so tell us, okay, give us some tips. How do you manage it? Because it's common and we all have it. And that's why I love having these conversations, is because it just normalizes it. We all suffer from some sort of mindset challenges. So tell us how you manage it.
Yeah, I think I manage it in a couple of different ways. Obviously, don't let the pressure get to you. I have to tell myself that frequently. And at the end of the day, you're just having conversations is pretty much what I try to tell myself. You're just having conversations. You're trying to figure out how you can bring value to somebody. I know that I know our assets better than anybody. And so I'm the best person to be the one to display them out, to try to sell them, to try to fulfill them, and really try to sell the dream to these companies that have this ambition to enter into sports marketing when they probably have never really done that before. And so to help try to ease them into that process and just be the best support system and customer service manager that I can be for our partners and for our front office staff as well, who I work with each and every day, every single person, to bring all of these assets to life.
Hey, Jahaan here. I hope you're enjoying the interview. I am sure you are thinking about your own career right now and how you can pull out in front of the pack to take your career to the next level. For 18 years, supporting women in sports has been my favorite part of my career, and I would love to support you. Whether it's joining my free Game of Her Own community or one of my one-on-one coaching programs, I am here for you. Send me a message at jblake@jahaanblake.com or DM me on Instagram at jahaanblake, and let's schedule a time to have a free session. I cannot wait to hear from you. All right, let's get back to why you're here.
And now if someone's listening and they're in the partnership space, what advice would you give them? Because I love what you just said. I know my assets better than anybody. But if somebody was trying to have growth like yours, which is just, it's crazy. So that's from when you started in 2018. So what advice would you give them?
I think the best piece of advice that I could give is to just be a sponge. It's really something when you're sitting there and you look at your job description and you say, okay, I work in corporate partnerships. Here's what I need to do. And here's what I have to do to get there. But I know that everything that I do is going to somehow affect the ticketing department, the marketing, communications, retail. It's going to affect everything. So what I like to do is be a sponge and really get to know everybody that I work with and the ins and outs of what they do. Because in my opinion, in order to be an effective salesperson in sponsorship, you need to be an expert on the assets that you're selling. And to do that, to start from scratch and figure out, okay, I have now sold this promotional asset for our social media. What do I need to do? I need to figure out who's going to design this graphic, who's going to post it, what are the ins and outs, all of those little details. So I'm not always the loudest person in the room. I'm not always the most outspoken person in the room. But what I do is I like to be a sponge and I like to be observant and just really take in everything that people are saying and learn and lead by example. So, and then on the opposite end, in order for me to be the most effective at fulfillment and activation, I need to know what it takes to sell this asset. What are the goals and KPIs that a company is trying to hit? And how can we best bring that to the table?
That's fantastic advice for anybody. And I like the way you said it, is just being an effective salesperson. What I didn't hear you say is it doesn't sound like you take things personal, right? So I'm sure you've received no's during this process of growing, your portfolio, right? So I imagine that you got no's, but you don't take it personal. Is that right?
To a certain extent, yes. I never want to be a disappointment to somebody. So there have been a couple of times where things have slipped through the cracks and I've disappointed a partner or someone in our office. And I take it personally, but then I try to learn from it and make sure that I can adapt and ensure that it won't happen again. Or if it does happen again, how can I best be of service to make sure that it's not a big deal?
Yes, I love that. So it's almost like you just kind of sit with that for a minute. And yeah, that one hurt. Like that one sucked, whatever you tell yourself, and you're just disappointed, but you don't stay in that space.
Yeah, I definitely try to implement that into everyday stuff. And then even I like to just always kind of center myself and say, okay, back to reality. I can celebrate so many different wins that we've had in the last few months, but I don't want to dwell on those because I know there's so many other things that I should be doing to get more wins and more celebration. So I always just try to say all right, Caity, back to reality, do what you need to do.
Yes. Just like a lot of athletes, you celebrate your wins, but then it's all right, we got to do it again tomorrow. This was fun, but let's go back. We got to keep going. It's not over yet. So it's important to pause, celebrate those wins and recognize the hard work that you're doing. Right? Especially you in the very short time that you have been in your role, and then celebrate those wins and then keep the momentum going.
Yes.
That's important. Tell me if I'm being too nosy here, but 18 months, coordinator to director, are you going in and basically saying hey, I've been here, I've done this, I've grown the portfolio to a crazy amount, I deserve a promotion or a raise? Are you going in and using your voice in that way?
I have done that. Yes. It was such a nerve-wracking experience.
Yes, it
I
is. It's
think,
really nerve-wracking.
yeah, I think between my jump from coordinator to manager, we were right in the middle of our first season. And I think that I had really proven that I can bring a lot more to the table than just being the person via email to try to grab the logo or anything else. I really want to try to bring value. So creating our rate card, creating our asset inventory, doing all of that was something that I really felt like I could take on. And so that was really something that I went to my boss at the time and said, I think I could be of value here. Let me do this. Let me try it. And then we'll see where we end up. In year one, we really just were selling traditional marketing assets, field signage, broadcast, logos on social media, just really the more traditional marketing that you're used to seeing in sports. But then we look at what we sell now as I'm a director, and we're getting more mature in our assets and our activations. We're getting more authentic, we're really trying to be intentional with what it is that we're trying to do, and kind of gone are the days that we're just selling a field sign. We're really trying to say, okay, how can we create this sweepstakes, or how can we create this really unique experience and really bring some value to not just our partners, but how do we bring the value to our fans as well? So we've got a lot of fun stuff in the works right now that we're doing to bring some value to our fans and really get them engaged and involved in what it is that we're doing. So I think that that's really some of the things that I really wanted to bring to the table and said, here's where I can bring the value, and here's what I would like to do. How can you help me get there? I think that's always the biggest thing, is asking the question, how can you help me get to where I want to be?
Brilliant. I love it. Okay. So you're going in and saying, like, this is what I'm bringing to the table and this is where I want to go. Like, how do I get there? I mean, that puts the ball in their court and it gives you something tangible to work towards as well.
Yes.
I love that. I love that advice. And I love that approach. Okay. Talk us through. So you said you were nervous when you first, you first went in. What were you nervous about?
I think first and foremost, I was kind of nervous because I was so young and I was less than a year into my tenure with this job. And I just kind of thought, I have no business going to somebody and saying, I want more, and how can I get more? I'm still trying to get my feet under me. We're a brand new team. We're building the plane as we fly it. How can I possibly go to somebody and say, I want to do more? So I think it was a lot of conversations with myself and just trying to figure out, what are you truly wanting to get out of these conversations? I don't want to come across like I'm ungrateful for the opportunity that I've been given up to this point, but I also want to show that I'm willing to do more and that I want to learn and improve not just myself, but our organization as a whole.
You nailed it, right? I think a lot of people go through this, I don't want to seem ungrateful. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get stuck. But it sounds like to me, you were like, I don't want to seem ungrateful, but I'm going to push through and I know that I deserve this, right? Like it was almost like you had this internal debate and just pushed through and asked anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously they said yes, because look where you're sitting now. And then who do you go to? How do you, like you said that you talked to yourself and got clear on what matters most, which is super important. Like if you don't know what matters most to you and what you want to go after, how can someone help you get there, right? So you took the approach in doing that first, doing the work, as they like to say, and then you went in and made the ask. But who are you talking to? Who's your support? Do you have a support system, or are you just coaching yourself?
Yeah, I think I would love to coach myself, but I think that's not a sustainable practice. I think you always need to rely on somebody. So coincidentally enough, my fiance also works for the team. So he knows the ins and outs of the organization, who I'm speaking to, what I do, like from the ground up. He knows exactly what my job entails. And so he's been in sports for a while as well. So he's always kind of helped me along the way as my mentor, I guess you could say, to a certain extent. So I talk his ear off all the time, and he always tries to give me the best advice possible. So I rely on him a lot. I do rely on my dad, coincidentally as well. That minor league baseball team I mentioned at the beginning, my dad works for now. And he is the senior manager of corporate partnerships over there. So having my father, who does the exact same job that I do day in and day out, he's a huge support system for me as well.
Nice. Okay. So wait, let me make sure I understand this. So your father works for the Louisville Bats, is that right?
Yes.
You guys have the same job.
Yes, he got into it after I did. So he's learning from me, honestly.
That is fantastic. Good for you. I'm sure you have a lot to teach him.
Yes, it's a family business now. It's really fun.
Oh my goodness. That's a fantastic story. I mean, and so obviously he has something to learn from you, and it sounds like so does your fiance, because you just won the Rising 25 award from Front Office Sports. Like, tell us about that award.
Yeah, it just came out a couple of days ago. 25 people were given this accolade who were under the age of 25, who have done incredible things in sports up until this point to really improve what they do, but then improve sport as a whole. And we're considered future leaders in the sports industry. And it's an absolute honor to be recognized. You know, I work for New Mexico United, but there's individuals from the NFL, the NHL, Adidas that are on that list. And so it's just an honor to be recognized alongside some of these incredible people this year.
Yes, congratulations. That's so exciting.
Thank you.
I cannot wait to see what is next for you. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's going to be big. So you'll have to make sure you keep in touch and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Are you ready for rapid fire questions?
I sure am.
Did you prepare for them?
I don't know. I kind of tried to, but I don't know in the moment, I don't know if I'll be able to handle it. So we'll figure it out.
All right. What is your favorite sports moment?
When the University of South Carolina made it to the Final Four.
Oh, okay. What is something people always get wrong about you?
That I'm more girly than I appear.
More girly than you appear. More girly than you appear. Got it. I had to say it to myself a couple of times.
Yeah.
So far, you're doing really well at rapid fire. I am not, but that's all right. Here we go. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Probably pizza.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. Are you a morning or a night person?
I'm a night person.
Man, I am the complete opposite. Favorite holiday?
Probably Passover.
Passover. Okay. What job would you absolutely be horrible at?
Oh my goodness. Anything dealing with math.
If my husband was in this room, he would say, yeah, my wife too. Although I think I'm fine, but like, he just seems to think that I'm really bad. I'm just not quick sometimes. It takes a minute.
I think 2 + 2 is 22 sometimes. So I'm just not good at it.
People who are listening, listen, if you're not good at math, you can still sell corporate partnerships and crush it, right? It's okay. Someone can help you with the math part. Let's see. What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they weren't going to sell it anymore?
So this actually just happened to me. I'm kind of panicking. My favorite candy is a Twix PB, Twix peanut butter. And they're nowhere to be found. And I'm kind of panicking right now. So I'm trying to go online and figure out, can I buy a stockpile? And they just don't sell it anywhere anymore. This happened maybe 2 weeks ago. So I'm still very much upset about it.
No, I'm surprised that you haven't called them.
I would love to. Somebody get me a number. I'll do it.
I mean, I think you should call them and tell them, if anything, when this episode comes out, you should just send it to them and be like, fast forward to the rapid fire questions, number 7, and listen to my answer. Can you please help me?
Yes, please. I will help sponsor you, please.
See, yeah, there's a deal to be had there. I think you need to get on the phone and find them and talk shop.
Yes.
Okay. And then if it happens, I would like a little bit of credit or some Twix, either one.
No, absolutely. I can make that happen.
Okay, cool. What is your favorite app?
Twitter.
Who is your biggest inspiration in life?
My biggest inspiration, I think it would probably have to be my parents. I think they've worked so hard to give me and my brother everything we could have possibly imagined. And I just want to be able to give back to my future kids or anybody that I come across later in life and try to give them the same passion and just courtesy that my parents have given me and given everybody else in their lives.
That's so nice. I hope they're listening to this. As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
I wanted to be a pilot.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
A pilot. I did not see that one coming at all.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Finish this sentence. The future of women working in sports is
Evergreen.
I like it. Caity, this has been a pleasure. If someone wanted to get in touch with you and from Twix or just women in sports, how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, you can reach me via email, my LinkedIn, anywhere is easily accessible.
Okay, perfect. We will link to all that in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I'm so excited to have done this. Thank you for inviting me here today.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.